So today's training is going to be around how I shred opportunities, how I look at opportunities very quickly to find the ones that work for me and that I want to put in the pipeline. Now, I don't have my own company anymore. I haven't had one for a little bit, but I work with customers all the time and I'm embedded with them, some more than others. And in there, there's a process for how we sit there and determine what goes into a sales pipeline, because your sales pipeline is truly the lifeblood of your company's future. It drives everything. It drives the revenue that's coming in, obviously, but the ability to pay people raises in your company, move to bigger offices, get better equipment, pursue different verticals or expand your core competency. So your pipeline not only provides that visibility into it, but it lets everybody in your company, as you grow, you might be the only person in your company and you're everybody, but as you grow, it lets others in your company know what potentially is coming down the pike. It doesn't matter whether you're a new business or an old business. It doesn't matter whether you're a small business or a large business. The process for sales success in the federal market is exactly the same. I was actually talking to a friend of mine who is in a billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, so very, very large company. And he and I were talking about the sales life cycle, business development, capture, and proposal writing. And this whole cycle, how you guys do it in a billion-dollar firm, how I teach it for small businesses, let's say under 50 million. And he really got this whole concept of that I take the billion-dollar processes, that Shipley, very complex, complicated process, and I bring it down into 7 steps. And I say, here's the 7 steps. But the process is basically the same. They just do it with a ton more people. You do it all by yourself or with 2 or 3 other people, right? And so when you think about process and how it can help you, it's the same no matter what level. Whether you're going after a $100,000 opportunity or $100 million opportunity, you still basically have to follow the government's acquisition roadmap or life cycle, and our sales life cycle aligns to that. When you follow a process like the one I follow, and that's what I want to talk to you a little bit today, is show you some of that process. And when you follow a process like I do, that is basically industry standard, you're going to have the success as a government contractor that you want. And so that's why I'm trying to talk to you today about the 7-step process, or not 7-step process, but just a process in general for qualifying opportunities. This is the very earliest stage of an opportunity going into your pipeline. It's right before it goes into your pipeline is the part I really want to talk about. In today's training, I'm going to break down how to qualify, or how I qualify federal opportunities, into 3 different sections. I want to talk about what I do in the first 60 seconds when I see opportunities. I might see them in a long-range acquisition forecast from the agency. I might see them in GovWin. I might see them in SAM, which is I'm going to show you today. You can see them in any different location, but I triage, and triage is just a way of saying, do I want to, can I work with this or not? Is it a slam dunk or not? So in the first 60 seconds, I'm triaging. And I want to show you what I do. Then I'm going to show you what I do with the opportunities in the first 5 minutes. And then as I move forward and I like the opportunity and I continue to like the opportunity, then I invest 60 minutes. And so I'll talk to you briefly about what I do in the first 60 minutes. I'm going to show you what I do in the first 60 seconds and try to show you as much as I can in the first 5 minutes on a couple of different opportunities. But that's how I'm going to break it down, because when I look at opportunities and considering getting them into a pipeline, there are these different types or levels of tasks that I do. I don't need to invest a lot of energy into something I can pretty much say no to right away. And so we're going to dive into that. If you don't know who I am, my name is 𝗡𝗎𝗓. I'm the president of the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Chamber of Commerce and the co-founder of 𝗏𝗏𝗏 in a Box. I want to welcome you to our federal sales training, where we provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. It's why I do this training. Today's training is about the process of getting qualified, good, slam dunk opportunities into your pipeline. When that happens, not only will you be able to predict the activity that happens in your sales life cycle, but you'll start being able to predict revenue, which is really important to a company. 2 things I want to just remind you of. Make sure you subscribe to our Government Contracting Success newsletter. It's the largest newsletter in the federal market, and it's because we constantly are putting information in there that is very tactical, helpful to you, step by step often, with what you can do to succeed as a government contractor. So that's on LinkedIn. Go ahead and You can even subscribe right now while you're listening to me. Pop over, pop back. The other thing is tomorrow's training is fill your federal pipeline using FPDS. So the federal procurement data system is hopefully well known. It's one of those, FPDS is one of those terms you should know right from the beginning. If you don't know it, no big deal. I didn't even really know it that much when I was doing my business, but I'm on this mission to make sure you know all the main tools you should track on. But FPDS, I'm going to show you how you can use it to identify opportunities that might fit for your sales pipeline. And then you can take today's training and apply it to tomorrow's to triage the right opportunities going into your pipeline. So make sure you register for that training. Somebody will probably put a link into the chat that lets you know. Last thing before we dive into the meat of the training is I just want to congratulate the 4 newest companies to the 100 Club. If you don't know this, GovCon in a Box, we have stood up a new tool that allows you to figure out your visibility, your federal visibility score. And these 4 companies, 𝗡𝗏𝗂𝗂𝗓, 𝗚𝗢𝗩𝗖𝗍 Federal Services, Fifth Dimensional Success, and Breakpoint Labs, all came in since yesterday. They all increased their score to 100 since yesterday's training. I want to call out Breakpoint in particular. Those guys were pushing it all the way up until like 11:30 or just 15, 30 minutes ago. And they nailed everything and got it done and updated it. So it was exciting to see them go to 100 and put it out there. So Tommy and team, kudos. Okay, let's get diving in. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about it, and then I'm going to go show you how I do this. First thing is, when I'm qualifying an opportunity in the first 60 minutes, it is no different than an app you might find on your phone where you're swiping left or right? You swipe left to ignore it, swipe right to keep it. This happens in an HR department in recruiting. When we're looking at hundreds of resumes, we have to process them really fast before we invest a lot of energy into that candidate. So we swipe left or right, depending on what's on that resume. Like, they need to have a master's degree or something. It's like left or right. And you do that same thing with opportunities. The way I do this, and I'll show you in a second, is first I'm looking at the title. Does the title ring true to me or enough of a ring to it that I like it? I'm like, that looks good. I'll consider that. The second thing is I'll look at a very brief description. And when I say a brief description, I'm pretty much talking about 4 to 6 lines at most. I do not want to read multiple paragraphs at this point. I don't mind doing that if I'm stuck in that particular area, but the problem with reading multiple paragraphs is you begin to move into the second phase, which is the 5-minute review. I need to know pretty fast by looking at a few lines that it's like, okay, I like that, or more importantly, I like the title, but I'm not sure about the description. Okay, I'll keep it for a second and I'll invest a little bit more time. I have something in particular that, for all of the customers I work with, I pretty much don't look at the Veterans Affairs. If you're not an SDVO SB, then you're going to have challenges in the VA. And for me, I'm like, why bother going into a wall that I have to climb or break through and all this stuff when I can go over here and there's no barrier to entry, right? And so for me, every agency except for the VA for non-SDVOs is really much easier. You might have a different opinion. That's totally cool. I'm just saying, for me, when I do my 60-minute review, if I see VA, I move on. And you want to know your same things. You might say, if I see VA, that's top of my list. So it's not, I'm not here to judge the VA. And then the last thing is, I just want to mention the last bullet is I don't care about the response date. I'm looking at sources sought in particular is what I'll show you, but I don't care about the response date. It could be due in a day or 2 days. It could be due yesterday if I happen to see it. It doesn't matter to me. If I like the opportunity, I'll just push my way into that agency. If you're in sources sought, you're in market research, that day is flexible, whether you acknowledge it or not. Like I could just send you an email, and you'll go somewhere. If all I'm doing is writing to my core competencies, that's not a problem. But don't let a date discourage you. 50% of the time when I reach out to a KO and I say, hey, can you push the date? They'll push the date. Other times I reach out and I say, hey, do you mind if I send it late? I missed the date. I'm like, fine, go ahead. They're still trying to do market research. Some people will say, okay, some people won't. Doesn't matter. All right, let me go show you how I do this in GovCon in a Box. And so GovCon in a Box, this is our tool that we rolled out, and we're going to continuously roll out new features pretty much every week. But it's at govconinabox.com. And right here, bullet 3, I'm going to go to find teammates, which is not what I wanted actually. Oh, by the way, this is how I can go look at the 100 score. So here's the companies that are 100. I can hit search, and ooh, we got a new one. And I don't have the time to show you who it is, but I'll save them for tomorrow. We just went from 15 to 16. That's exciting. But think about it. This is how buyers, and remember my billion-dollar company friend, he does business development, building teams. They're coming into our tool because it's super fast to find companies. And that's all we're trying to do, is make it fast for you to be visible. All right, so let's come to how I do scrubbing. This is an RFI browser. We're gonna have a lot more functionality to it, but at the moment, it is a pull from SAM in a way that makes it so much easier for me and Gus, who I work with all the time, to really find the right RFIs for our customers. And so I'm gonna show you some of that first 60-second triaging that I do. First thing I might try is come here and I say, actually, let me reset the filter just to make sure. Okay, so we got 1,100 RFIs here. I'm gonna change this filter and say, show me any RFIs that are out there that I already done as 8A, saying, hey, we want it to be 8A. And by the way, I got a couple of duplications. That's just our growth. In SAM, it's got updates that they do. We pull everything. Now we're gonna only pull the latest. So if you see a duplicate, that's, that'll be fixed in the next few days. Anyways, I'm coming down. I'm just looking for something that might pop to me. I kind of like that one. Oh, this one. Okay, so this one I like. And I'm going to look at the title. The title is, I lost the title already, FOIA Information Access Staffing. This is perfect. I got a company that does staffing. I want to look at it. And I'm looking here, and I'm just looking for any kind of flag. But this is what I meant by just a couple of codes or a couple of lines. And this looks good to me. So I'm going to come up here to this heart, and I'm just going to save it as a favorite. And I'm going to close this and go back and look at a couple others. That was 60 seconds, right, for me to look at that. I'm going to keep coming down, see if anything catches my eye. Here's one that is information technology support services. We got a couple of companies that do that. I'm going to look in here. It's Army. Army is definitely somewhere where we want to go because they're 8A friendly, huge at the end of the fiscal year. And I'm going to look here just to see. Here they're saying I have to look at the PWS. I'm like, that's fine. I'll go click on these attachments in a minute, but I know it's Army and I like the title. I like it enough to keep it for a second. As a reminder, I haven't put this in my sales pipeline. I'm doing my 60-second review just to get a bunch of RFIs in a list. Then I will do a 5-minute review on each one of them. And after that 5 minutes, they will go into my pipeline. And I'll talk more about that in a second. Let me see if I can find, let me get rid of the 8A, right? So I looked at 8A. I'm going to reset the filter. Another way I might look at it is by the department, or I'm going to try, this one might be too big, but administrative. I'm just going to try administrative and see what that, actually, I already can tell histology services, building strong, ready teams. I didn't give it enough. So I'm going to try administrative support. I'll change it to exact, that I want the exact phrase, and I'm going to hit that. So this is better. I got 29 things. So here, administrative services, I'm looking in for the GSA. That title looks good to me. I'm looking at this description now. The contractor shall provide the management supervision necessary to provide administrative supports. They got me, right? In the 60 seconds, I swept to the right. I'm going to keep them on my list. It doesn't mean I'm bidding on them or anything. It just means I like them enough to look at them more. I'm going to come down a little bit more. Look at these. So the real estate one looks interesting, but might be specific. I already did the FOIA. I'm just coming down to see, and you can kind of do your own way of looking at this. Construction, building. Here's maintenance. This is VA, it looks like. Oh, no, joint strike. That's a little too deep for me. Housekeeping. I don't know how housekeeping services got into administrative support, but here is admin support, and this looks good. Just making sure. So I'm looking right there. FAA, that all looks good. I don't even actually have to look at the description because I looked at more than enough to like it. So I'm going to put that on my list. So that was 60 seconds, right? That's me looking at opportunities in 60 seconds. Just so you know, I did those favorites, and I have on my tool in GovCon in a box, I can go over my favorite opportunities. These are the ones I looked at. We'll come back to those in 1 second. Let me go back to my slides here. So oh, that's hilarious. That's supposed to be the first 60 seconds. I screwed that up. But that's all right. First 60 seconds is what I did, right? You see how it takes 60 seconds or less to look at an opportunity, decide to look at it some more. Next thing is the first 5 minutes. And at this point, I'm going to do a deeper dive. I'm looking for flags, and I'm looking for confirmation that the task areas are basically aligned to my core competency. For the most part, this is where I'm trying to find out, does this look like a slam dunk to me? So here are some things I just put down. Contract vehicle conflict. I want to look in there and see, are they still exploring the acquisition approach? Meaning, are they still deciding which contract vehicle to go for? Are they still deciding, or have they set their facility clearance aside? So if it's top secret, then I can't get them in there, right? I might not be able to get in there, but I can go for secret. And so I'm looking for that conflict on both the FCL, the facility level, your company, and the individual. So some contracts, the FCL might be one way, but the personnel are different. And then task area review and key personnel. So I'm going to look in there and see if there's any flags for me, or contrast that with, I'm going to look and see if there's anything that really excites me about the task areas. And I might have one that I had selected that I already looked at before that I kind of liked, and it'd be great to point it out. By the way, just a quick plug if I can, if there's anybody out there who's got a company with a TSFCL and they're open to talking with one of my customers, I'd love to put you in touch. They're trying to move their company up in maturity, and I'd love to help you out in any way, trade favors for you, helping them kind of down that path. Okay, so let me switch over to the GovCon in a box again. Here I'm on my favorites, and here's the 4 that I had saved. And so I'm going to pop in, and actually I want to go to this guy first because he just looks better at the moment with the admin support. So I'm going to come in here and start triaging this opportunity, and I can do it from right here to a degree, but really up on top you see these tabs. These other tabs in the middle, those are about sharing. So I can copy the link, send it to a colleague, but this one on right next to the type of notice is opening this in SAM. And so I can go over to SAM and actually look at the source, right? One of the things about GovCon in a box, we're not trying to build proprietary data in there. We're trying to make it easier for you to get access to all the government data. When I talked about visibility score earlier, it's not visibility in our tools. We're just measuring your visibility in the government's tools. And so here, I always like going back to the source data for the government. Okay, so we're looking down here. I'm going to spend 5 minutes, and really I'm going to spend like 1 or 2 minutes and speed it up even more. But here, the agency is fine. It's DHS, or it's a FAA. And if I come down, the dates are all fine. I don't really care about that. I am looking for this next one where it says set aside. So if I see it says SDVO, unless I have a really good fit in there, I'll just ignore it. If I have a really good fit in the task areas and I have built strategic partners, SDVOs, woman-owned small business hub zones, then I can just turn to one of my strategic partners and say, hey, here's a great opportunity. If you're interested in it, we'd love to be part of your team, right? We'd be happy to help you do the capture, et cetera. That happens all the time. If you have the relationships in place, it makes it faster. Place of performance is Oklahoma, so it's not Oconus. Remember, I talked about that. Here, I'm coming down, and I'm going to read a little bit just to be able to figure it out. But it's saying this requires a support contractor to provide technical management and administrative support. It's like, okay, cool. The rest of this is interesting information that I would spend time looking at myself, but I want to go faster. Right here, conveniently, are the task areas. And so the 3 task areas are technical research, program management, and project management, and administrative support. So task 2 and task 3 are solidly in our world. So that means we're at least 60% in our core competency, or slam dunk. Technical research, we do research, but what do you want us to do on the technical research? So I'm going to try to come down and see if I can't find it. And I've got to go into hopefully a PWS somewhere in here, and I can do it pretty fast. Technical management, SAL. Man, they got too many. They got too many things for me to do this on a live training. Let me click one and see if I can get lucky. Okay, so I'm opening up the SAL. The statement of work is the SAL. In here, I'm just seeing if I can find it. So there's requirements, task area 1, perfect. So I'm going to zoom in. Let me do this. And I'm still within my 2 or 3 minutes, I think. So they require technical aviation, human factor support, research planning. So here, host and participate in the meetings. That's us. And when I say us, I mean one of my customers I know can do this. Here, support the review. That's totally fine. You're supporting subject matter experts is what I see. Lead the efforts in the updates. So what I want to look here, conduct the initial research of information. If you've ever heard me talk about doing a requirement gap analysis, this is where I begin to figure out where our weaknesses are. But in this task area, I can see some of these subtasks we could cover down on. But this one about research execution, I'm like, we don't do that. Here, co-author a scientific report. We don't do that. We'd have to find somebody to team with. And so I look at that and I say to myself, I still think that's a really good one. We actually have people who are in my customer's company who are at this level, but the company doesn't do it, but they would know who to team with. I'm like, that's good enough to pass the 5-minute mark. So I like that one. I'm going to keep it. Let me close this guy and I'm going to do one more. So here, administrative support services. I might do 2 more actually on this. So here, I'm going to do the same thing right here. The set aside is hub zone, which is interesting. So we're not a hub zone, the company I'm thinking about in my mind for this, but maybe they can team up with a hub zone. But let's go see how big it is, because teaming up, sometimes it needs to be a little bit bigger in order for people to be open to teaming. This is pre-solicitation information, so that's kind of signaling it'll drop or something. But I'm just looking at this as an example. This is just the locations. The fact that they do multiple locations, there it's 3 FTEs, even if we could get 1. This is 100% for hub zones, so there's no deviation. I can't change that. And then I could go and look in the details. I'm going to skip this one for a second. The only reason I would keep it in my pipeline and go after it is if I had a strategic partner, somebody I'm meeting on a daily, or excuse me, every 2-week basis, talking about a joint pipeline, who is also a hub zone, right? And so if I've got those strategic partners in place and I'm meeting with them for 30 minutes every 2 weeks, then bringing an opportunity like this forward makes total sense. It's like, hey, what about we get 1 FTE, you get 2, let's go after it together. They're either open for it or they're not, and that's fine. But it's a way to process your pipeline really fast. So you can see this process, right? I do that process very quickly. I can go into the documents and look at it. But the whole idea of this is I'm just in the first 5 minutes, I'm trying to look at it. If I like it, like I do, especially the first opportunity I showed you, a little bit on the second one, if I like it, then it goes into my sales pipeline. And I don't know if you've seen my training on the pipeline, but the first capture status is unqualified. I have just reviewed it and I like it, but now I got to do the work of qualifying it. And this means, can I find a KO who's going to talk to me? Can I find out about the budget? Can I find out about the program office, et cetera? I'm probably actually alluding to it right here on the bottom, basic capture data, right? That's the qualifying stuff that I'm going to be doing on an opportunity when it's in my pipeline. Am I able to quickly find out, is this a new opportunity, an old opportunity? Is it on a particular contract vehicle? If they say it's this amount of money, was it actually that amount of money spent, which I would learn in USA Spending or FPDS, or was it just a promise with no revenue? There's all these really basic things, and I've got a lot of training you can go watch that talks about what do you do in the first 60 minutes for data and fields. But the 3 things I wanted to talk about that are most important in the first 60 minutes when I have an opportunity in my pipeline, because if it comes in unqualified, then I'm trying to get it to the qualified state or the abandoned state as fast as possible. And so I want to do a requirements gap analysis. And again, I have a whole separate training on how to do that you can watch. But a requirement gap analysis basically looks at that SAL that you saw a minute ago, the statement of work. I look at that, I shred it, I pull that information out. You'll see us roll out a tool for free that allows you to do this. But we shred this data really fast to be able to look at an RFI or even an RFP and go, does this really fit for us? Because when we have it in a way that we can score, instead of this big block of text, instead it's in a way that we can score, then we can start giving it a score on how strong are we in this particular task area or skill set, if you will. How much is our past performance aligned to it? And what I mean by that is typically when you respond to a contract or pursue a contract, you have to have 3 past performances. And so when you do a requirements gap analysis, you're trying to sit there and do an alignment to your past performance on all the task areas. And again, that task area alignment, that is about locking it to your core competency and making sure you're a fit. And so that's what I do in the first 60 minutes. I've done other training about that where you can go in. But this is a rapid approach to take an opportunity you never even knew about an hour ago and quickly triage it to the point where you don't have to rationalize it to anybody in your company. The data clearly communicates for you and your colleagues that this is a good opportunity, a slam dunk opportunity worthy of our pipeline. Okay, so here's what I want you to remember from today's training. I know it's a fire hose. You can always watch the replay. But the important thing is when you look at opportunities in a long-range acquisition forecast or tools like our tool on GovCon in a Box or SAM or anything else, learn to swipe left and swipe right fast. 60 seconds or less on an opportunity. You want to get into that rhythm. Anything longer than 60 seconds means you're trying to convince yourself that it's good. And then have a clear slam dunk opportunity criteria that makes it so easy for you to understand which ones go left and which ones go right. And I think left is get rid of and right is keep. I can't remember. You come up with your own left or right. And the last thing is just go to GovCon in a box. We put the RFIs in there. You can do that exercise and just hit the heart, save it as a favorite, then move on to the second exercise, which is a 5-minute review. And in that one, you might take 10 minutes to review it, but you'll eventually get down to being able to review opportunities in 5 minutes for that triage to decide if it goes into your pipeline. Hopefully you found this valuable. If you did, just put slam dunk into the chat. Let us know that you were tracking on it. If you're interested in getting our support on your company reaching the next level, we've got a BD Accelerator workshop. It's for companies that are making $1 million or more. You've got to have money so that we don't, you've got traction, right? I provide this training for everybody else. But if you're interested in that, just put workshop in the chat. Gus or I will be happy to reach back out to you. But this is a BD Accelerator workshop. For everybody else, that GovCon in a Box tool, go check it out now. It's free. Raise your visibility score. I want to put you on our next training. And all of us, as we move through the day, just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.